How to realize oneself spiritually in a decadent world without reliable references. First, it is necessary to understand how the ascent to transcendent states began in a traditional world. Esoteric initiation is traditionally understood as a process of spiritual transformation, often mediated through rites, symbols, and teachings passed down within an initiatory order. This process is seen as leading the individual beyond the ordinary human state, granting access to transcendent knowledge and higher levels of being. Various religious and mystical traditions, such as Hermeticism, Freemasonry, Sufism, and Vedanta, have long upheld the importance of initiation as a structured path to wisdom and enlightenment. The debate over what constitutes a valid initiation has been a critical topic among esoteric thinkers, notably between René Guénon and Julius Evola in the 20th century. René Guénon, born in 1886 and died in 1951, was a central figure in the traditionalist school, emphasizing the primacy of authentic, uninterrupted spiritual transmission. He argued that a genuine initiation required two fundamental components: a valid initiatory lineage and effective rites. Guénon maintained that initiation was not merely an individual pursuit, but necessitated formal entry into an organization with an unbroken transmission of spiritual influence. This transmission ensured that the initiate was integrated into a metaphysical reality that transcended the material world. According to Guénon, without a legitimate and operative initiation, the individual risked engaging in pseudo-initiatory practices that led only to illusion or spiritual stagnation. For Guénon, the deterioration of modernity posed a significant challenge, as many initiatory organizations had fallen into decadence or become corrupted. Nevertheless, he held that true initiatic chains still existed, albeit difficult to access. He warned against self-styled initiates and purely intellectual or psychological interpretations of initiation, which he saw as deviations from the true path. Julius Evola, born in 1898 and died in 1974, also aligned with the traditionalist school, but with a markedly different approach. Rejected Guénon's insistence on the necessity of external initiatory organizations. He acknowledged the importance of initiatory traditions but considered them largely lost or inaccessible in the modern age. Evola believed that most existing organizations had become ineffective due to the spiritual decline of contemporary civilization. This led him to emphasize what he called self-initiation, an inwardly driven process relying on individual effort and the awakening of higher faculties through willpower and inner transformation. Evola proposed that initiation could be achieved autonomously by those possessing an intrinsic predisposition for the solar, or heroic, path. Unlike Guénon, who viewed the need for legitimate rites as indispensable, Evola asserted that certain rare individuals could bypass traditional structures by accessing what he called primordial tradition directly through inner discipline, asceticism, and contact with metaphysical forces. He found precedents for this idea in certain warrior traditions, such as the Kshatriya path in Hinduism, or the samurai ethos, where initiation was not always mediated by priestly orders, but could occur through trials, ordeals, and individual conquest of the self. Evola further argued that in an age of dissolution, where traditional structures have largely collapsed, the elite few should pursue what he called the path of action, overcoming the constraints of ordinary existence through personal strength and spiritual aristocracy. He saw the warrior archetype as embodying this principle, in contrast to what he perceived as Guénon's more passive and sacerdotal approach. The debate between Guénon and Evola on initiatory regularity encapsulates two fundamentally different perspectives on spiritual realization. Guénon upheld the necessity of authentic initiatory transmission and criticized self-styled initiates as misguided or even dangerous. Evola, on the other hand, maintained that in the modern era, genuine initiatory organizations were virtually extinct and that the only viable path left was one of inner realization and self-determined initiation. Their disagreement reflects broader questions within esoteric thought. Is initiation an objective, hierarchical process requiring external validation, or can it be an autonomous, inner-directed experience for those with exceptional spiritual aptitude? The answer depends largely on one's philosophical orientation and understanding of tradition, hierarchy, and the individual's role in the esoteric journey. My position on this subject is a synthesis of these two opposing ideas. First, there is nothing in the concept of initiation within an order that indicates that this traditional practice is necessary for spiritual realization. On the contrary, such a claim falls into an infinite regress or an unjustified first exception. Moreover, the claim of a direct and physical succession transmitted all the way back to the primordial tradition is overly fanciful and can only be accepted allegorically. If we step slightly away from the realm of esotericism to observe the domain of exotericism, that is, what is conventionally referred to as religion, we can see that countless times, new faiths or reforms of old beliefs emerge through a rupture in lineage, either by divine action or by a spontaneous recovery of ancient orders whose remnants are only spiritual. A clear example of this is St. Paul's mention of the order of Melchizedek. Second, spiritual matters indeed require an intellectual preparation or conditioning in order to be properly understood. Thus, although the path of action is legitimate and effective, it must be supported by intellectual foundations. Without a metaphysical foundation, ascetic effort, that is, bodily discipline, the pursuit of adventures, or engagement with danger, will only fully manifest what is already present, masculinity, an immanent and therefore contingent characteristic. But we will discuss the metaphysics of sex in another video. In addition to the heroic type of action lacking an intellectual basis for achieving transcendence, it does not exhaust all possibilities of activity. While pure contemplation is passive, reflection is by definition a reaction, speculation is an active observation, a search for an entrance into the celestial kingdom, to seize it by force. The figure of human royalty is a condition that transcends caste functions by manifesting in the same individual both spiritual authority and temporal power. Another point of disagreement between Guénon and Evola, which we will also leave for another video. Therefore, despite all the issues surrounding contemporary empty and materialistic intellectualism, we must not dismiss purely intellectual, non-operative effort, even if it is originally disconnected from traditional rites, for we have few alternatives. And philosophy, which Guénon despised, not coincidentally, was itself a consequence of the degeneration of ancient Greek traditions into superstition. Esotericists believe that Plato taught certain things secretly to special students. The conception of philosophy as a ladder to greater truths is not new, though it seems to have been forgotten. Philosophy is an alternative for qualified individuals to form an intellectual elite scattered across the world, given that we should not expect the extraordinary to be concentrated in one place, especially in Kali Yuga, the true Dark Age. And it serves as a solid foundation both for those who act with the body and for those who act with the mind. And you, what is your opinion on the importance of external initiation? Which of these three positions do you agree with, and why? Don't forget to comment below. See you in the next video.